evening and welcome to the regular business meeting of the Scarborough School Board of Education. The date is Thursday, May 5th, 2022. May I have the attendance?
Mrs. Giftus?
Here.
Mr. Kelleher?
Here.
Ms. Leong?
Here.
Mrs. Lindstrom?
Yes, or here.
Ms. Trapani Huff?
Here.
Mrs. Turner?
Here.
Ms. Giftus?
Here.
And Ms. Bertulia?
Here. Fantastic. Can everybody please join me? Oh, join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all. All right, thank you so much. Agenda item 4.0 is adjustments to the agenda.
Just one minor adjustment, which is to add a short superintendent's report after the chair's report.
Thank you. All right. Agenda item 5.0 is public comment on agenda items. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment today?
This is for non-agenda item, yes?
Yes, so what I'd ask you to do is introduce yourself to us and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. If you can address your comments to me as the chair.
Okay,
All right,
okay. Should I take this? Can I take that off? Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
sure.
Hi, my name is Charles Spanger, 99 Beach Ridge Road. And thank you, Madam Chair. I want to talk to you about a piece of legislation that was passed in the state legislature this past session. And it was also funded, and it's Bill LD 1902. And it provides for a pilot program to develop curriculum and solid science-based curriculum for all grades on climate change. And it was supported by Senator Stacey Brenner. She was a strong advocate for the bill. And I want to talk to the school board because this bill, which has a limited amount of funding, it's for pilot programs and for training of teachers and developing the curriculum, fine tuning the curriculum. So the towns that submit grant applications get to really help to develop the plan. So I'm hoping that Scarborough, with its fine school system, would take that on. You get the money to do it. Teachers get trained from other monies, and it's cross curriculum because climate change isn't just a science issue; it's obviously a social studies issue. It's the political struggle over it is much more intense than the debate over science, which is over. Where there will be some, not these particular young ladies, but there will be some students who speak in behalf of it soon. So that's what I'm here to say. Do you have any questions about it?
Well, thank you for informing us and letting us know. We'll take another.
LD 1902. Yeah, I'm not just sure to the extent that it was funded. They requested $3 million and they got something less than that. So I don't know what it is and how much the grants would be. The anticipated amount was for $50,000 per grant, but thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else that's wishing to make public comment this evening? Those that are attending virtually, if you are interested in making public comment, you can raise your virtual hand through the Zoom menu. All right, seeing no additional comments, I will go ahead and close public comment for the evening.
Agenda item 6.0 is a finance update, the FY23 budget. And I will turn it over to Kate.
Hello, friends. I'm sure you're really excited to hear me say the word budget again in another meeting. We have just a few short slides to look at tonight because there's been an awful lot of material presented. I do want to say again, for the benefit of the public and anyone in this room who hasn't memorized all of this by now, we do have a budget page on our website, and there'll be a link to that at the end of this presentation. And pretty much everything that we've talked about is either on the budget page as a document or resource, or in our board meetings and committee meetings that are posted online. So if you haven't heard enough of me already, get out there and look online. If you want to go to the next slide, who's doing that? Oh, it's you. Thank you. So what we're going to talk about tonight, this is the second reading and vote on the FY23 school budget. What we're going to talk about tonight is the changes that have happened since our first reading, which was on March 17th. This slide shows you the summary of the budget that we presented at first reading that the Leadership Council brought forward to the school board. Oh, and for you folks, if you're interested, there's a handout up here. If you want to get into the details, that's also going to be posted up online. And it's in the agenda packet. So this is the budget that we are currently sitting with, the budget proposal that the board has approved in first reading. And now we're going to talk about some things that have happened since that time, since March 17th. And we're going to have some amendments that the School Board Finance Committee is bringing forward before we settle on our second reading and vote of the school board's approved budget. So the next slide will start us off on that little journey. We talk a lot about items in motion. Well, I do. Items in motion is the phrase that we use for the numbers that aren't settled yet by the time we come to first reading. So there's a number of outside forces. There are, vendor issues. There are benefit premiums that haven't been established yet. And there are cost estimates that are refined between first and second reading. So that's what this piece is about. This is getting us from the first reading to the actual budget that we believe we need to bring forward for the final vote. This slide tells you about adjustments to personnel costs. And you all have heard me say a few million times that personnel is close to 80% of the school department's budget. And so we're a very people-heavy organization for good reason, because people teach people. And because of that, all the changes that happen with salaries and benefits have a strong impact on our budget. So what's happened between first reading and today is that we've been able to make some changes in our estimates for what next year is going to cost us. And as you see on the slide, we've made updates to retirement projections. We have folks who notify us in January that they're going to retire. They are eligible for a retirement stipend, so we budget that into our projections for the coming year. And then between March and today, we often hear that folks have changed their minds. Folks are coming and going and staying. And so we are able to make changes in our projections to really nail down exactly what money we need for that purpose. We also have turnover estimates. And typically when a retiree leaves our district, they're at the top of the salary scale. And often they're replaced by a new hire who is not at the top of the salary scale, most often. So where you folks have already had the opportunity to meet some of our new teachers for next year and a new administrator or two. And so now that we know that, we can actually go back again and take a look at what that new person is going to cost us versus the estimate that we put in the original budget. The third bullet under adjustments to personnel costs is an actual change in our staffing level. The high school has determined that they will not need to fill one of the retirees that is leaving. There's still we're still waiting a little bit on student enrollment. The course enrollment choices are going to be closed out, I believe, next week. And we'll have a good idea of where that change is going to come. But we are going to take down one, what we call FTE, which is full-time equivalent, or one position at the high school. And again, we feel that we can do that. Ms. Ketch feels that she can do that. She's here to support us without impacting the ability of students to select the courses that they need for their schedule and that they need for the graduation requirements. The last bullet in that section is about special education. In our original proposal, the special education director had suggested that she could use 2 new ed techs, education technicians, because of the levels of students who are coming in to kindergarten. In the interim, she has learned that her numbers at Wentworth School are actually much higher than what were expected, because there have been quite a number of extra referrals coming out of the pandemic and with folks getting resettled into their programs. And so she's basically asked us, can she trade 2 ed techs for 1 teacher? The ed techs that we currently have, the numbers of ed techs that we have, if we are able to fully hire, which we haven't been this year, should be sufficient to cover the needs of the students, and the teacher is actually more necessary to have a teacher of record for those students. So that actually creates a $10,000 reduction in our budget, which is a little strange, but 2 ed tech positions, when we have an open position, we do an average cost, and the average estimated cost of an ed tech or support staff is $45,000. And the average projected cost of a new teacher is $80,000. That's not their salary. That is their salary and benefits and all payroll taxes, sort of a full boat price tag. So in trading 2 $45,000 ed techs for 1 $80,000 teacher, you save $10,000. Second section is on adjustments to benefits. I think you've all heard me say that Anthem rates came in higher than what we budgeted, and that created a need for us to raise our budget by about $118,000. Delta Dental is our dental coverage. They are having a rate hold, which is nice. That saved us a little over $8,000. And in workers' compensation, that's a sort of a lump sum premium based on payrolls and based on our experience in work comp. And MEMIC is our insurance firm. And in working with them, they gave us an idea that what I had originally budgeted could be reduced by about $25,000. The last item on this page is any of you who were captivated, I think is our new word, right? Captivated last night by the audit presentation to the town council, heard that our audit firm is no longer going to be with us next year, that we've gone out to bid and got a new firm. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I'm holding you hostage. So we've got a new audit firm lined up. We went out and did an RFP process. We vetted a couple of, actually 3 different firms responded. And in doing so, we've got a new price tag for our audit, and the school department and town share that cost. And the town's about 2/3 and I'm about 1/3. We're about 1/3. So there's an increase of about $11,000 in our budget to accommodate that cost increase that we're going to have to pay. So that's a lot. On the next slide, we have a few items that we're going to take out of our current operating budget and move into ESSER, which is the ESSER funds are the latest of the COVID-related federal grants that came to us last year. And in FY22, we've been using ESSER grant funds to support additional classroom teachers for the most part, with a few extras thrown in. Since the first reading, we've had an opportunity to go back to our ESSER grant, see what we wrote the grant for in FY22, how much money was in there for the various purposes that we asked for and were approved for, and how much have we actually spent. And so in doing so, we discovered that we had approximately $70,000 left over that we hadn't used, and $66,000 that we hadn't used because we couldn't make a hire. So that first bullet is the K-12 tech specialist. That position was supposed to be hired for this year. We're supposed to have that person in-house right now. And in FY23, we were going to move that person, that position, into our operating budget. So we don't have that person. We haven't been able to find a person who wants to take that job. And so, having not succeeded in finding a person by May of 2022, we will defer that, try again for next year, and put the money back, or put the person back into the ESSER grant for FY23, because the money is still there, the grant is still approved. We'll be talking about that person with any luck. If we're able to find a good candidate, we'll be talking about moving that person into the budget now for FY24. The other two pieces: fund a portion of a classroom teacher, fund a portion of tech device replacement. These are items that were in our original proposal for FY23. And again, in going back to ESSER and saying, how much money are we going to have left when we hit June 30, when we hit the end of this school year? The answer is that we have some money left over. So in the original budget proposal, we said we were going to fund 4 teacher positions. And now we're going to fund 4.5, more or less. Funding a portion of the tech device replacement. There's a whole section of the ESSER 3 grant this year that says that we need to do some tech work to follow through from all of the other COVID grants that we got in the devices that we purchased and need to continue to support and replace. And so again, there was some money left over in that portion of the grant as well. So what this does is it takes some of that, the kind of short-term urgent need that's still with us coming out of the pandemic, and shifts it back onto the federal grants for another year, and releases a little bit of the pressure on the operating budget. The final bullet is adjustments to the capital budget. There's no financial impact to this, but in going back through the capital requests, there are updates to technology. There's a shift in priorities. And so the projects have actually been redefined. In technology, what's been requested is that we defer the PhoneAC rewiring project. And instead, we invest that money in replacement switches for the high school, which Jen actually presented when she did her budget workshop with us. And so her intent, she made the shift earlier than I did. I didn't make it on paper until this moment because it was already out. But she's been talking about that being a higher priority from the very beginning. So it shouldn't be terribly surprising. She also asked us to add $30,000 for the high school projector project, which was in the original budget, but she had quotes coming in at a higher cost, and she wanted to make sure she had sufficient funding to get that done. And the last piece that's going into technology that wasn't described in the original budget was the software called Enrollment Express, which is a paperwork software. That's a terrible, terrible expression. It's not paperwork software. It's applications, forms, digital signatures. And it's a way for us to, now that we're so much more in this hybrid environment and this remote environment, it's a way for us to exchange documents with families without them having to be on paper, but also having the right level of security so that we're not just like emailing things and Google Docking things. So that's technology. And then in facilities, this is where I shed a tear. We had planned in facilities to purchase a robot floor cleaner, which I think is just the cutest thing ever. And the robot floor cleaner, unfortunately, is going to be deferred because when we went out to get pricing on the replacement of a boiler at K2, which we had included $80,000 for that in our CIP request. Come to find out the 2 boilers are failing, and so we're going to need more money for boilers and less for cool little robot vacuums. Again, Todd has asked me to flip the priorities on that, make sure that we have sufficient money to do the HVAC, which is critical. And the robot vac will live to come back into another budget another day. Again, we're keeping the funding the same, we're keeping the amount the same. So the ask of the town and the taxpayers is the same on capital. It's just changing the nature of the projects that we're asking for. So the bottom line of all of this is a budget reduction of $234,837 in our general fund expenditures. Remembering that we've gone up by 140,000. And so we have a $300,000 reduction, $340,000 reduction to take it back down again. And this slide is what the budget looks like today. You'll see there's an extra column added. The middle tan bar is the budget that we passed at first reading. And, oh, there's me covering it all up, right? And the second column is the reduction. And so we've gone from a total education budget gross of 6.4 to 5.99% increase over FY22. And at the bottom is the tax request, sometimes called the net budget, which is the amount that we ask for from the taxpayers. And that's gone down from 5.31% to 4.84%. And at this point, I will say again that that's not the increase on the tax rate for the town. That's the increase on the school's budget, which is then combined with the town's budget and the capital budget and a bunch of revenues and the valuation in a great big spreadsheet that I don't have to do, that comes from the town finance office, that will drive us down to the increase in the tax rate for the town. And right at the moment, I believe with the adjustments that we've made so far, we're at about a 3.5% tax increase. And the town council's goal is 3% or under. So there's still a little bit of work to do. And I know the town council finance committee is meeting next week. And our finance committee is meeting again next week. And so it's likely that we will have some more conversation about this at the school board meeting on the 19th, after the town council takes their final vote on the 18th. But this is where we are today, and this is our proposal, and we're going to go ahead and vote on it. Oh, the capital budget. I forgot I had a capital budget slide. Capital budget doesn't change, but it does show you that the capital tax request, which is the amount that's actually raised by taxes, is actually quite a bit lower than it was last year on the school side. So the school capital budget, again, is folded into the total municipal budget. And we haven't made any changes to this budget. I didn't point out on the last slide, we haven't made any changes to adult ed or school nutrition either. Everything that we're talking about is in the general fund, which is our biggest one. And that's the one that the voters vote on. K-12 operating. What else have I got? Oh, look, dates. Next week, the Town Council Finance Committee is going to have their last review session. They've been having pretty much weekly review sessions. And they're going to make recommendations that will go to the full Town Council on May 18th for their second reading and vote. We'll get back together on the 19th and see if we have to make any changes because we're directed to do so by the Town Council. And I think I've mentioned this at the last meeting that if the council changes our bottom line, which they have the authority to do, then it's our job to allocate that change within the voter categories. Regular instruction, special education, student supports, the categories that the voters will see when they go to the polls. And they will be going to the polls. We will be going to the polls on June 14th. And the last one is just the ever-present link to our budget page. On our budget page is also a link to the town budget portal, which includes the entire municipal budget and a bunch of resources as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kate. Does anybody have any questions for her? Kristen. All right.
Good.
Well, thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation as always. All right. Agenda item 7.0 is the chair's report. Well, as Kate just presented to us, we have been incredibly busy with budget season in full swing. We have held 3 joint workshops with town council. We have had our first reading and voted on that. We have held our public hearing. We participated in the budget review process with the town council finance committee. And all of these things are leading to, as Kate mentioned, June 14th, which is our voting day. So we really hope that everybody in the community will join us in voting on June 14th. Also, Kate mentioned yesterday that we participated in a joint workshop with town council to hear the results of the municipal audit. It went very well. The auditor presented the results and there was no findings. And he did say, I'm gonna have to look at Kate because I want to be sure I get it right. Is this your 15th year with no, the town's 15th year with no findings?
It was only the 15th year with that audit firm.
With that, but the certificate you received?
Oh, gotcha, the GFOA, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I should
The town participates in a program where they have a certification of the quality of their audit. And so what it means is that their financial statements aren't just a bunch of charts. They include a lot of data about the town, a lot of really cool resources about what goes on in the community of Scarborough, a lot of background information, and a lot of, detailed resources that don't have to be in an audit. But they're considered sort of, they meet a standard of excellence. So you're right, they've been commended for that for, I think, 14 or 15 years. Yeah.
Which was nice to hear as well. This is my first time participating in the audit. So if you're interested in viewing the presentation, it is on town council's website. So there's a YouTube link there and you can watch the presentation. So that's my number 1 item. My second item, unfortunately, is a little less, well, not even a little, it's a lot less fun. I've received a letter of resignation from Leanne Casalonis for the school board. I'm going to read it to you now and then we can talk through the rest. She says, to my fellow board members, it is with mixed feelings and a heavy heart that I am resigning effective immediately from the Board of Education. I have recently accepted a position which is taking up more of my time than anticipated, and I am unable to provide the level of attention this role requires and the people of Scarborough deserve. My love of public education has never wavered, and I am proud of the good work our board has done over the last 5 years. Thank you, Scarborough residents, for trusting me to fulfill my duties as a member of the board by electing me twice to this seat. To the staff of Scarborough Public Schools, you have my deepest respect for the passion you bring to the students each day. Navigating the pandemic was not easy, yet you did it with grace and compassion. Please know this board always has your best interests at heart. To the board, continue to always put the students first in your decisions. This is often a lonely role as you cast a vote or voice an opinion that you may not always agree with personally, but are what is best for the district as a whole. Stay strong and lead by example. Finally, to Gabby Giftos, it has been an honor to watch you grow into your role as a student leader on the board. Finding your voice and advocating for what you believe to be the best decisions possible. I am sorry that I won't see you accept your diploma in person, but know I will be cheering you on all the way. Thank you all. Kindest regards, Leanne Casalonis. Sorry. So before I talk about the procedural piece of this, I do want to just thank Leanne. She has played a pivotal role in this board for 5 years, and her service to the town has been bar none. She's been a mentor to many of us on this board and many past board members. And this is, I know I can speak for everybody. I'm sure that this is we know this is a hard decision for her to make, but we will miss her. We will miss her tremendously. So for that's the news piece. As for filling the vacancy, as you know, town council is also going through a similar or in a similar position, right? They had a counselor who also resigned his position. When he resigned, they interpreted the town charter in a way that says that the June referendum is considered a regular election for the town of Scarborough. So we will, of course, follow defer to them, to town council. It is their charter and their previous findings. So because June is the next regular election and Leanne's resignation is within 60 days of that date, we cannot include her on the June ballot. However, what that means for us as a board is we have a decision to make. We will do it at the next board meeting so that everybody has an opportunity to think through what this means. But our choice is to either hold a special election, or we can wait and hold off filling the vacancy until the November election. All right, so I can tell you, I've spoken with Melissa, our attorney, and Jeff as well, and Alicia as well, and we've talked through the pros and the cons of both. So I will tell you those, and then I will take any questions that you have. Of course, the pros for holding a special election is that we would have a full board. We wouldn't be operating one person down. Of course, with the workload, that's a piece of it as well, of the committee work that we do. We would have a full board to take on that work. The cons are that it is very expensive. It is about $4,000 to hold a special election. So that would be a cost the town would incur. The other side of that is that when you read the town charter, we would have to hold the election about in August, looks like. So, because it would have to be 60 days after June and 60 days before November. So we would be looking at August. So we would be a few months out from November. So it would be a matter of a few months to hold if we waited until November. And also the turnout in the summer is not great historically, right? It's harder when people are on vacations. The other good news, if we were to decide to hold off until November, is that the summer tends to be a slower period for us as a school board. School's out of session. We're not doing as much as we do during the normal school board, or the normal school year, excuse me. So from a process standpoint, what we have right now is, like I said, we'll give it a couple weeks to let everybody process the different decisions, the two decisions in front of us, but the next board meeting will hold a vote to determine how we're going to fill her seat. Are there any questions for me? Yes.
What happens if there's like a tie vote when there's only 6 people on the board?
That's a great question. So if there's a tie vote, it actually would, whatever we're voting on would not pass. Yeah, so that is a con, right, for holding a 6-person, for maintaining a 6-person board. Are there any other questions right now? Any other comments?
I would just like to say thank you to Leanne for her service and for all of the hard work that she has done, and the patience she's displayed, and she really has led by example through some really tough times, and I've really enjoyed and appreciated working with her.
I would like to say also thank you to Leanne. She has been an excellent mentor and for the few months on the board. It's been extremely helpful to me personally, and I'm very happy for her in her new role, but I'm sad to lose her, and there'll be big shoes to fill.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So stay tuned, more at our next, in our next meeting. All right, agenda item 8.0 is the superintendent's report. So Jeff, I'll give it to you.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to this slide perhaps on the community dialogue, if you don't mind. They're a little out of order. I just wanted to just take a few moments just to update, a little update on the community dialogue, which is still scheduled for May 11th from 6 to 8. And just also kind of inform the board and then also the public. We've had a great response from surveys that have gone out now to families. Part of the community dialogue process too is getting feedback and ideas on where we are as a school district and where we want to go. And so the family surveys, staff and student surveys were close to 1,000 respondents, approximately 20% or even a little north of 20% in each of the school buildings as far as parents and families who responded, which has just been great. And we're still combing through a lot of the feedback and responses given, you know, both for content and then also some things that came up too was folks that felt like they couldn't make the night in person and were asking if there was going to be a link, if there was going to be a way to access and participate virtually, which there wasn't. We were planning this as a in-person event, but have decided that it's best to pivot. And so the community dialogue for May 11th, next Wednesday, will be switched to a virtual online event for a variety of reasons. One is to make sure that we get greater participation. It's also an opportunity, as the second part of the event is a presentation with the help of our architects at Harriman about the primary building school project and the progress of our building primary school building committee. So, and actually one of the people who's involved in that presentation is a consultant who's in the Boston area and now doesn't have to drive all the way up for an in-person event. And we are able to then conduct this presentation online so that people can watch it live and then also record it so that we can post the presentation and just again make sure that everybody has that opportunity to listen in and learn more and how they can participate as part of the process for the building steering committee. So that's the second half. Then the first half of the dialogue is still intended to be participatory and trying to get a cross section of the community, students, staff, and parents to be able to engage in small groups in different topic areas. So we're still working on setting that up. Actually, putting that together in a Zoom environment is in some senses easier to manage and to facilitate than even in person. So we're working on that and we'll be sending out the links both to the first part, which would be again more of a participatory thing, but done online through Zoom. And then the second part, which would be more of a presentation with opportunities to give some feedback and questions during it about the progress of our building committee. So that's really the plug for next Wednesday for the community dialogue. And I know it's a switch. You know, we were really looking forward to an in-person event. You know, we're also, you know, certainly sensitive to the uptick in cases that are being reported and making sure we're not adding, you know, we got plenty of in-person big events as you get closer to the end of the year. So we're also just trying to be cognizant of that fact as well. With respect to getting a whole bunch of people in one place for extended periods of time and conversation. So it felt like it was just a better route overall to have this community dialogue switch to a virtual and an online event. So, and that is my update and report.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? All right. Oh, sorry, did you say?
Nope.
I apologize. Agenda item 9.0 are committee reports. So first hold on a second. First up is Jenna, Finance Committee.
Yeah, so Kate, thank you for that presentation. And I think Kate also put some of these dates on her slides too. So we have an update on the timeline for everyone. Today is the second reading and we're going to be voting on it. And May 10th is our Town Council Finance Committee meeting. May 18th is our Town Council second reading and budget vote. And June 14th is the school budget referendum, and we're really hoping that you guys get out there and vote. And another plug on the school budget link, all the information is there, along with the budget portal, access to the town budget information also.
Thank you, Jenna. Is there any questions for Jenna? Next is the policy committee. So I will give this report. As you know, we've been working as a committee on the 3 policies you see here. We have those on the agenda tonight for second reading. We have not had our next meeting yet. It's supposed to be next week. We just have some other district meetings that are interfering with our date. So we're looking at adding a new date. So these were our health services policies. Again, they'll be on the second reading. When we meet next week, we will be taking up the suggestion to update our BEDH policy, the public participation, at our board meetings. And that was, if you remember, there was a suggestion to allow members of the public to put in or to provide comment, but we wouldn't read it out loud. It would just be part of the record. So we have to still talk about that at our next meeting. Any questions there? All right. Next, communications, Jillian.
All right, we met yesterday, working still on communicating various ways about the budget. Our next meeting we are having on Thursday, June 2nd. It's at 11:30 a.m. Instead of 4:30, we had been meeting. We were changing the day. We're going to focus on any adjustments that are happening in the budget, communicating those with the community, opportunities to participate, and then general and any information about turf and track. That's all.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Jillian? Next is the building committee. Are you doing this one?
I'll do this one
All
too.
right.
So the committee meets on a regular basis, and the focus has been on community outreach and site selection. And then the next upcoming meetings are as listed. They will be at the elementary schools moving forward instead of at the high school or at town hall as they have been. So the next one is May 24th at 6:30 at 8 Corners.
Perfect. And these meetings are open for the public to participate.
They
Right?
are unless there is an executive session, but the first part of the meeting is always open and they can participate on Zoom. Those links are on the calendar.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Jillian? All right. Before I move on to liaison, I know, thank you, John. You want to go ahead and give a curriculum update?
The curriculum committee is just in the process of rescheduling our next meeting because we have a conflict. So we'll put that out when we have it sorted out.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any liaison reports today? Or any other committees? All right. Agenda item 9.0 are the student representative, agenda item 10.0 are the student representative reports. So I will start with Yulia.
So on the left are just a lot of 8 Corners kids just having fun. And this week they had ACEs Day, so all children exercising simultaneously. And on the right is a video of one of the exercises. So that looks like a lot of fun. And then the next slide is Pleasant Hill. And this morning, WMTW came for weather at your school for the 6-7 a.m. news. So 10 students came and they got to do that. And on the right, the Chewonki Foundation visited the first graders for an animal adaptation science activity. So they got to interact with a lot of cool animals. And then at Wentworth, they had 4 concerts, one for each learning community, and they were conducted by Mr. Fletcher and Ms. Goodall. They named them Forward since it's their first concert in 2 years moving forward from the pandemic. And it sounds like it was a lot of fun. And they also had the art teachers put together an art walk of students' artwork using display boards that they got through a grant that they can finally put to use.
Do you have one more slide?
I know.
No, okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for Yulia? All right, Gabby.
So this video I'm about to show you is from Mrs. Kate's English language arts class at the middle school. They've been learning about commercials and advertising. And at the end of the unit, they all collaborated in a group and came up with a product that they had to create a commercial for. So I have a video of one of the commercials. So that's probably my favorite commercial I've ever seen. I mean, they did a great job. And then on the next slide, so this past Sunday, May 1st, was National College Decision Day. So the next day at the school, the seniors at Scarborough, we all wore t-shirts for the colleges we're going to next year. And if you can play that TikTok, this one of my friends made this. So yeah, it was a kind of a sentimental day to see where all your friends are going, but it was really cool to see like the wide variety. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. What an exciting time, and what a great video.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any questions for Gabby? All right, thank you guys. Agenda item 11.0 is new business. Agenda item 11.1 is the second reading of the FY23 school budget. So I will turn this over to Jenna.
Yes, so after review and adjustment, the School Board Finance Committee is recommending an amendment to the original FY23 education budget proposal passed at first reading on March 17th. So I'd like to move approval to amend the FY23 education budget expenditures approved at the school board's first reading on March 17th as follows. So the general fund operating budget reduced the expenditure budget by $234,837 as outlined in the supporting documents. Also maintain non-tax revenue of $6,851,528 as approved in first reading. Amended general fund expenditures gross budget will total $58,899,986. Amended general fund net budget will total $52,048,458. And then moving on to capital improvements budget, change proposed items in expenditure budget as outlined in the supporting documents. Adjust use of capital reserve funds as outlined in the supporting documents, and adjustments result in no change to original funding requests. So amended capital improvements expenditures gross budget will total $2,313,283. Amended capital improvements net budget will total $625,000. And there are no recommended amendments for adult education or school nutrition budgets, so that stays as approved at first reading.
Thank you, Jenna, for reading that. Do I have a motion to amend the school budget as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Can we call the roll, please?
All right, Mrs. Giftis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Giftis,
Yes.
and Ms. Bertulia.
Yes.
All right, motion or amendment passes. So now we'll return to the main motion. Do I have a motion to accept the general fund operating adult education, school nutrition, and capital budgets as amended? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, can we call the vote?
Mrs. Giftis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Giftis,
Yes.
and Ms. Bertulia.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, agenda item 11.0. I'm going to bundle 11.2, 11.3, 11, and 11.4. Those are the second readings of the policies I mentioned earlier. So do I have a motion to approve 11.2, the second reading of policy JLCD, administering medication to students? The second reading of policy JLCDE1, request or permission to administer medication in school. And the second reading of policy JLCDE2, parent medical provide request for caregiver to administer medical marijuana at the school.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, can we call the vote, please?
Mrs. Giftis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Giftis,
Yes.
and Ms. Bertulia.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item 11.5 are the meeting minutes of the April 28th, 2002 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Mrs. Giftis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Giftis,
Yes.
and Ms. Betulia.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Agenda item 11.6 are appointments. 11.6.1 is the high school physical education and health teacher.
Okay, well, I am pleased to nominate Mr. Philip Conley has been selected to fill this position for a high school physical education and health teacher. Mr. Conley received his Bachelor's of Arts degree in physical education from New England College. He's been a PE teacher in South Portland since 1991. Currently, he is the K-5 PE teacher at both Brown Elementary School and Small Elementary School in South Portland. Mr. Conley was also the varsity boys basketball coach in South Portland for 8 years and has been Scarborough's varsity boys basketball coach since 2016. Coach, who's here this evening, would you like to say a few words or? Totally up to you, not to put you on the spot or anything. You made the trip all the way down.
First of all, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to come to the high school to teach. The last 6 years coaching the varsity boys basketball team has been outstanding. So I look forward to teaching and coaching at Scarborough High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the high school physical education and health teacher?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I think we're ready.
All right, Mrs. Giftis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Giftis,
Yes.
and Ms. Betulia.
Yes.
All right, congratulations. All right, agenda item 11.6.2 is the Gym Dandies instructor.
Yes, we're appointing Hayden Cohen as Jim Dandy's instructor.
Perfect. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the Gym Dandies instructor as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right.
Riding a unicycle is hard.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Mrs. Giftis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Giftis,
Yes.
and Ms. Betulia.
Yes.
All right, agenda item 12.0 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion?
Mrs. Giftis,
Yes.
Mr. Kelleher,
Yes.
Ms. Leong,
Yes.
Mrs. Lindstrom,
Yes.
Ms. Trapani Huff,
Yes.
Mrs. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Giftis,
Yes.
and Ms. Betulia.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much for joining us and have a great night tonight.